In the previous video, we concluded our discussion on why VCs love the SaaS game. We discussed 5 reasons that make the SaaS business model attractive for VCs and founders. But is the SaaS business model also good for customers who buy software products? Or is it worse for customers compared to the old CD in a box model, which was a perpetual license model? In that model, when a customer bought a CD for a software product, they got a perpetual license to use the software along with a few years of free bug fixes and security patches. But the customer would not get new features for free. New features were rolled out in new software versions, and the customer would have to buy a new version all over again if they wanted access to the new features of the software. Also, if you bought a CD for a client-server software, which would be any software that 2 or more users would use to collaborate on different computers, you would need to host the software yourself. This meant buying an appropriate server, setting up networking, maintaining the infrastructure over time. This was not an easy task. The SaaS model was an answer to the infrastructure problem. In the SaaS model, the software vendor also took up the additional responsibility of hosting the servers and maintaining all the required infrastructure. But this also meant that the vendor had to bear recurring costs for hosting and maintaining the infrastructure. Therefore, it was natural for a vendor to charge a recurring fee to the customer. And this model has clearly won in the market versus the perpetual license model. Even old software companies like Microsoft and Adobe have moved away from perpetual software licenses and have moved primarily to the SaaS model with a recurring fee. But hosting and infrastructure benefits are one reason why the SaaS model has won. There is another important reason, and this second reason is not well understood in popular media. Can you think of another important reason why the SaaS model is better for customers than the perpetual license model? In my assessment, this second reason is as important as not having to manage infrastructure. But this second reason is often overlooked in the story of SaaS, which is why I will tell you the second reason with a short story from biology, which will serve as a mnemonic, so you won't ever forget the second reason. So let's start. Look at the small animal. These are pictures of a rough-skinned newt, which is found in the Pacific Northwest from Northern California to Alaska. It is quite small. An adult newt is just 4 inches in length. But a rough-skinned newt is extremely poisonous. It carries a poison in its skin called tetrodotoxin, or TTX. Comparing gram per gram, TTX is 10,000 times deadlier than cyanide. These newts carry TTX in their skin so that predators have a hard time eating them. A single newt carries so much TTX that it is enough to kill 1 adult Asian elephant or 12 adult humans. But why? Why is this little creature so ridiculously poisonous? If the poison is just meant to scare away predators like raccoons or coyotes, then thousands of times less poison would also have worked. But having enough poison to bring down an elephant is insane. So can you guess the reason why this newt has so much poison in its skin? What if I were to give you another fact? In the same regions of the Pacific Northwest is found a species of common garter snakes that has ridiculous amounts of TTX resistance. Can you now guess why the rough-skinned newt is so ridiculously poisonous? So here's the answer. The newt and the garter snake are locked in an evolutionary arms race. Think about what happens to the children of a mother newt with low TTX. Most of its children are born with low TTX, but a few others are born with high TTX in their skins due to some random mutations in their genes. The low TTX children are easy prey for snakes with low TTX resistance. But when the snake tries to swallow a child with high TTX, the snake finds it too toxic and ends up spitting up the newt. Therefore, newts with high TTX have an advantage over low TTX newts, and so they proliferate in the environment. This now puts selection pressure on the snakes. Any snakes born with mutations that produce high TTX resistance have an advantage. They have much more food available. So this makes snakes with high TTX resistance proliferate in the environment, which again produces an advantage for newts born with even higher TTX in their skins. And on this cycle repeats until the present day, when one newt has so much poison that it can bring down an adult elephant. Evolution is an incredibly powerful force. Getting back to the SaaS and perpetual license models, can you now guess the second reason why the SaaS model won over customers from the perpetual license model? If you guessed evolution, you are correct. The perpetual license model is the arch enemy of evolution. It actively hinders the evolution of software in two important ways. First, customers often delay purchasing new versions. Sometimes this is due to budget constraints and sometimes due to organizational inertia. If something is sort of working right now, why risk changing it? So the users of the software within the organization get stuck using outdated software, which never evolves. Secondly, because the software vendor needs to sell a new version every 3 or so years, product teams often do not get to release better ways of doing things until the next version. So even if they have already solved a big user problem, the solution may sit idle in unreleased code for years. In the SaaS model, there are no versions. New features are available to all subscribers as soon as they are released, and product teams get to deploy their improvements as soon as they are ready. SaaS companies sometimes release multiple improvements in a single day. Therefore, SaaS enables rapid evolution of software. So, when SaaS startups compete against incumbents operating with the perpetual license model, it is like an evolving species competing against another that is frozen in time. It's not really a competition. Even if the startup doesn't have all the features of the incumbent initially, it will evolve and outcompete. The perpetual license model is a pre-internet model. It is a relic of the past, of a time when software had to be shipped on CDs and a copy would be installed by a user on a server that they controlled. In this world, every customer ran their own copy of the software, so a software vendor may have millions of copies of their software running at any time. There was no way to do frequent releases because every release meant that new CDs had to be manufactured, shipped, stocked, and installed, which would gradually replace all the old copies of the software running on customer servers. So one upgrade cycle every 3 years is about all that a company could manage. With the adoption of the internet, the SaaS model became possible, where the software was hosted by the vendor on cloud servers and delivered to customers through the internet. In this model, frequent releases became possible because now there was practically a single copy of the software running on the vendor's own servers and nowhere else. So the product team could change that copy as many times as they wanted, and there were no CDs or logistics involved. Evolution is the reason why many VCs have a thesis to invest in SaaS startups that are competing head-on against IT consulting or old software incumbents that are still operating with a perpetual license model. So, if you have been thinking of building a SaaS startup and there are behemoths in your space that are still operating with a perpetual license model, it may be a good idea to take them head-on with the SaaS model.
Hey there, I'm KJ Saxena, founder of Relentless VC. The video you just watched is part of the Venture Capital and Entrepreneurship Specialization, which is available absolutely for free on relentless.ventures. Go check it out. If you're a tech startup founder and want to raise money from us, you should apply on our website. Lastly, if you like this video, do subscribe and share it with your friends.